Hey guys, it's April 26th. It's a bright, sunny day out, unseasonably warm, so I figured we'd start this update from outside in the garden. We'll take a look at the perennial plants, the blueberries, the strawberries, and the cherries, see how they survive the winter. Overall, everything looks like it has survived intact. It looks a little bit rough out here, looks a little bit unsightly, but it always looks that way when there's no plants growing in the ground. But that changes as soon as things start growing and fruit starts setting. So it's quite dramatic how it turns from a little bit of an unsightly scene to something that's actually quite pleasant to walk through. So let's see how everything did over the winter. So my deer protection was not foolproof. It's really hard. They can reach their head around. There is still a little bit of damage from the deer. Not as much as previous years. So I'm sure these plants will put on quite a bit of new growth and hopefully produce a good crop of blueberries this year. As the stalks mature, they get woodier and the deers find them less appetizing. So hopefully these stalks can put on a bit of weight, get a little bit thicker, so the deers don't snack on them as much as they do. Now the strawberry plants, even though we are still dipping well below zero at night, have started to grow, surprisingly. I planted up this second bed. The mature strawberry plants are over here. At the end of last year, it was pretty late in the year, but I did transplant a bunch of runners into this bed. We'll see which ones survive. I'm not expecting all of them to survive, but it looks like quite a few have survived their late transplant, so that's quite encouraging. What I'm going to do later on this week, we are expecting a couple days of rain, so I'm going to let that fall, and closer to the end of the week I'm going to clean up this bed. These plants, you basically just snip off all the old dead growth, and then I'm going to cover this bed with poly, with greenhouse poly, and see if I can get these guys growing and surviving the cold winter nights. Hopefully get them to produce really early in the year. I haven't seen anything from the asparagus bed. They are quite difficult to spot when they first come up. These are the cuttings from last year. So nothing yet. As of a couple days ago, there was still a little bit of frost in the topmost layer of soil, so I expect another couple weeks before the asparagus pop up. The cherry plants have buds. Again, these went in rather late in the year last year, so I was a little bit worried about them, but they look like they survived. Buds are there, so they should be good to go this year. And last but not least, I was doing some tractor work for a neighbor of mine, and they generously dropped off a small trailer full of well-rotted horse manure, so that should come in very, very handy this year. Be distributing that throughout all the beds. Alright, that's it for out here. Not too much to see, obviously. We're still extremely early in the season, but it is unseasonably warm, so hopefully we can get a jump on previous years. Again, we'll see what happens with the strawberries. I've had mixed results with putting poly over these beds, but we keep trying to get an early harvest of something, so we'll see how that works out. Anyways, there's lots of work to do in my planting room, so let's head down and get we're gonna get the bulk of the seeds started today, so quite a bit of work coming up, so let's get started. All right, we are back down in the planting room, and there's a lot of things that we need to get done today. We're about 4 weeks away from transplanting everything outside, so basically any plant that I'd like to give a head start to has to be sown today, or it's not really worth it. The things that I usually direct sow into the ground, things like carrots, beets, peas, pole beans, those are pretty much the only plants that I will, again, direct sow in the field. Everything else I like to give a head start to. So today we're going to be planting everything from lettuces, cucumbers, zucchinis, pumpkins, pretty much everything. But before that, we do have to water the plants that we potted up 2 weeks ago. I have to move them around because the tomatoes are really taking off. I have to move them to a shelf with it gives them a little bit more room to grow, and so that they don't block out too much of the light from the adjacent pepper plants. They're really starting to take over. They've put on quite a lot of growth in 1 week. I'm also going to give them a shot of fertilizer. With indoor plants, I usually use a really mild fertilizer. The one I use is that one. It's a fish emulsion based fertilizer, and I usually stick to the low end of the range for their recommendations. So they recommend between 10 and 20 milliliters per liter, so I usually just do 10. I find it works really well. So I'm going to reorganize the plants that I currently have, and then start planting some new vegetables. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the tomato plants looking like they're doing pretty good. Some of them have a bit of an odd color. Some of them have some curled leaves. Not sure if, I don't know what's going on, if they're deficient in something, but hopefully the fertilizer will take care of it if they are. Some of them are already have suckers to pinch out. Can't remember which one. I think it was that one in the end there. Some of them already have suckers that I have to pinch out and are already starting to form flowers. So summer can't come soon enough for these guys. All right, so there are all the pepper plants watered. The one little habanero pepper that managed to survive is coming right along. I'll probably pot him up sometime this week. And underneath the peppers, the 2 eggplants, the Savoy cabbages are coming along. The butterfly flowers are just now starting to break through, and the dill plants that we potted up last week looking a little rough, but hopefully that little bit of fertilizer will give them the boost that they need to make it until we can put them outside. And under the second set of lights, the imperial broccoli, all watered, and the cauliflower looking pretty good, and the good tray of onions, and the not so good tray of onions. All right, all done watering. For something that's so simple, it does seem to take quite a bit of time, but nevertheless, we're going to move on to planting. I'm not going to show you guys all the seeds that I plant. There's tons of YouTube channels that go through how to plant a seed. It's really simple. You take a pot, put some dirt in it, put the seed underground and give it some water, and then wait a week and a half. The standard rule is you plant the seed the same depth as the size of the seed. For smaller seeds, about a ½ inch, quarter inch to a ½ inch underground. I usually stick to around a ½ inch. And then again, give it some water and wait a week and a half for the plants to show up. So pretty simple. I will see you guys when I'm all done planting everything. Okay, that's it for today, all done. As you can see, a wide variety of seeds were planted. Let's go over them really quick. So there's some pumpkin, zucchini, butternut squash, spaghetti squash, cucumbers. There are watermelon, cantaloupe, and honeydews. Those have never really worked for me, but I keep trying. It would be nice to get a melon of any kind out of the garden. There is some cabbage, turnips, Swiss chard, and I planted 5 more kale plants just to make sure we have enough. And then 1 tray of butterhead lettuce. I will be in a couple weeks planting another tray of lettuce. That's the one thing I do try to stagger a little bit. It's just nice to always have some lettuce. Unfortunately, I couldn't find my pickling cucumbers or what was it? Romaine lettuce. So I'm gonna have to pick up some of those seeds locally and start those within the next few days. But other than that, I'll keep an eye on these, and as soon as they sprout, as soon as they break the surface, I'll be putting them under the lights. Hopefully I have enough room for all these to fit. We'll figure something out. Anyway, that's it for today. I will see you next week.